in an asynchronous class, I'm like, does the professor even exist?
Yeah.
Do any of these students even exist? Am I alone in the universe by myself?
100%.
What the
We had a
heck?
T-Rex on the moon, and we were all astronauts, and I think I was a king. I'm so serious. Let me keep it PG-13. we won't get into that. What's up? It is another episode of SPARTIE-Lab After Dark. Mysterious. Today we have a new guest. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello everybody, my name is Rohan. I'm a junior at MSU studying information science, and I'm super excited to be here.
So yeah, you already know me, Tyler.
Hello, I am Langston.
Hello, I am Mia.
All right, and today our topic is, we're talking about hybrid, we're talking about in person, and we're talking about remote. We're gonna see which one is best and why each one is the best that it is.
Why is this topic relevant to SPARTIE-Lab?
That's a good question. And honestly, it's because our main leader, Robbie Rattan, he has an amazing class that he leads. I know I took it, and when I took it, it was, how would you describe it? That was kind of like would you describe it more?
Did we take it together? We took
Yeah.
Ooh, a stand-up comedy show. That's just exciting.
So then my friend said his class was boring, and I was like, why? Is it in VR?
Hey, how
Get
is
it, 'cause
class?
VR's boring?
Hey. Boo.
What do you want?
How's class in VR boring?
Oh, come on. You think class in VR is fun?
Yes, ma'am. How can I help you today?
Well, after much consideration, I've decided to install Love. Can you guide me through the process?
This effect.
Yeah. His name is Seven, but he has an 8 on his head. Best one to ever exist.
Oh.
I feel, mysterious when I play him, because, like,
You do?
look at his jacket. He's hiding something under there. Look at his eyes.
He looks like a cool guy.
He'll just disappear into the night.
Whoa. So,
I'm gonna change my avatar again.
I think that one started off remote because of COVID, right?
Yeah.
It started off remote, and then we moved over to in person, and then kind of a hybrid, but in VR, which was really cool. So it depends on how you see hybrid. Is hybrid technically in person, or is it remote, or is it
both.
hybrid? Yeah, like it is. It's like it's combining. It is. Yeah, it's both. It's combining them, and I thought that was really neat aspect of it. I feel like I learned really well, because especially when was it spring semester? Yeah, it was spring semester. I know I got allergies, and sometimes I'm not feeling well. And so the fact that I could just put on my VR headset and still be in class was absolutely amazing. So
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like the classrooms of the future.
Honestly,
Like, for real.
it really, I think it should be. Like, what do we use? Immerse. It was 2 years ago. Yeah.
Engage.
Engage,
Yeah,
Immerse, and then.
Wait, what is immerse?
Do you remember? It was the new one that we got, like towards the end of the semester.
Oh.
It was like that one you could like. I had the class in front of me. I had Netflix in the corner, and then I had
Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, we were like we could choose, like, leave the setting and move to a different setting. I thought that one was really cool.
So cool.
The leader of our lab, Robbie, the leader of SPARTIE-Lab,
Yes.
invented this VR class for Michigan State University, and it was hybrid when Tyler and I took it,
Mhm.
but as of right now, it's actually fully remote in VR because he is in California right now,
Mhm.
and we are at Michigan State.
That's when I took it. That's how I got it. So I only ever saw Robbie like once. He came over once, I think, like the few times that he comes over to MSU to like,
Mhm.
in person.
Mhm.
We saw him for like one of our classes, and that was like the hybrid version.
Oh,
But
right.
like the
Okay.
majority of the class, like all 11, 12 weeks were pretty much just like him in California and us in VR with him. But what's crazy is that it didn't feel like he was actually in California. It still felt like as if it was like this sort of like pseudo hybrid type thing where it's like in VR but also like I felt connected, It was weird.
Mhm.
So I'm curious to know, like, you said you felt connected,
Mm.
right? But do you think it would have felt as connected if you were on Zoom versus like in the VR class?
Honestly, no, because like the way that, because like COVID obviously brought that whole like Zoom era on, and I think that with Zoom it was sort of way easier to just like not do anything. Like I could just be like, honestly, I'll admit this right now. In like high school, when I had my senior year in COVID, half the time I was sleeping.
Me too.
Like literally, like I would just turn my camera off and be like, all right, like
Mhm.
whatever. But with VR, you're like actually still engaging, and you're like you can like mess around and just like do random stuff. And that was what Robbie had us do. Like he would literally have us like create random objects and then like play around with it, and then
Right.
understand how that's like, you know, the implications of that and like the psychology of it was so interesting. So I think it definitely makes you like more engaged without actually being in person.
Kind of building off of that, there's like a difference when you have remote. There's that synchronized and then asynchronized. And I feel like that makes a huge difference on like learning experience. Because Robbie's, or at least when ours was that remote time, it wasn't asynchronized. Like we still met at a designated time. We still talked and chatted and stuff. And I personally felt more connected to the class, and I feel like I learned more that way. Asynchronous versus synchronous, because asynchronous, some classes, like I have some remote classes that are asynchronous, and I personally don't feel like I've learned a thing from those classes. I feel like it's like the due date, let's say it's today, right? It's due today. I will go home, I will look at everything I have to do. I will look at, like, it'll say, oh, make sure you read and answer these questions, and I will specifically look in the book for those questions. It's kind of like regurgitating information. But when you're like synchronous, specifically with Robbie's class, because he like, it's not like paperwork, it's more so a conversation. Having that conversation and actually doing it at the same time, like you're having a conversation about VR while you're in VR. So if something new happens to you right then, oh, this just happened to me, oh, I can make a T-Rex this big, oh, I can move us to a campfire site. Like that's literally what we did in the class.
So are you telling me you've seen T-Rexes in class?
100%. 100%.
What the heck?
We had a T-Rex on the moon, and we were all astronauts, and I think I was a king. I'm so serious. Yeah, I'm so serious. It was, but like I feel like you're learning that way because you're like doing it at the same time.
Experiential learning.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I feel like in an asynchronous class, I'm like, does the professor even exist?
Yeah.
Do any of these students even exist? Am I alone in the universe by myself? Is no one going to call out to me? Yeah, so like that's like weird. You know, the asynchronous just gets you in some weird places, I would say.
Yeah. Now, between hybrid, in person, and remote, what do you guys feel like you learn better?
It depends on the class, I would say.
Okay.
Because some classes you kind of need it to be a little bit by yourself and like self-study and self like working out things. But I've always noticed for group projects especially, it's better to like ideate in person and bounce off of each other's ideas and stuff. So I think in person it will always be superior to that, even if you're in some kind of call or something like that.
I get emotionally exhausted with in-person classes. That's why I prefer hybrid, because then like sometimes I can be in hermit mode and like do my own thing, but then there's just like little doses of human interaction and collaboration. So I've favored that kind of balance.
I think I would agree with that. I think because like hybrid is for me, it gives me the option to like go in, you know, and then the option to like stay at home. And I think with that freedom, you get more flexibility, and then you can do what's best for yourself. But at the same time, it's like sometimes I'll just be lazy, and then that'll be like my way of being, oh, okay, I won't go, and then I could still like be on Zoom, right? But I feel like sometimes I'll like regret not going, and I'll be like, oh, like I should have gone in person or something like that. So there's like pros and cons, right?
If you're doing really well in the class, because there's sometimes I'm doing pretty good in the class, I don't really need to go in person. I join the Zoom, I get the information that I need, I move on. But then there's sometimes, you know, I'm like struggling, or there's maybe not even struggling, there's just a topic that I was really interested in. Going in person, I can stay after, I can be a little bit more engaged. I feel like with Zoom, sometimes having that hybrid option, you kind of, like you just said, you feel sometimes you regret not going in person. I feel like that's, at least with me, it's because I don't feel as engaged, but I still feel engaged. I feel like you can definitely stay more engaged with Zoom. It just depends on the person.
Building off of like what you said about engagement, today was a like work day in my programming class essentially, but it was in person. Obviously it's not like an online class, but I would sit there and I'm supposed to be working, but like there's so many people around me and I'm like, I could not focus at all. And I work so much better, especially when I'm programming, when I can like talk out loud to myself and have like a giant whiteboard by myself and just like do stuff on it. And so when I'm trying to like focus on my own zone, I literally got almost nothing done for those 2 hours. So I was not engaged at all, even though it was in person. So yeah.
I think that moves to the advantages too of like in person versus hybrid versus remote. Like one of the advantages of being remote is you're in your own environment. Like I said earlier, when I was in the VR, I had Netflix up, right? And that seemed like oh, you're not paying attention. I actually got like a lot of work done. There was multiple times where I would that's just how that's how I work. It is how I work.
I don't think so. There's no, you know what studies have shown, there's no such thing as multitasking.
I didn't say I was multitasking.
Tell me how you work and watch Netflix at the same time,
because
I don't believe
you have to do that. Part of it. You have to do part. I'll tell you. Actually, I'll give you. This is an experiment I did my sophomore year, right? So once I had to study for this huge exam coming up. It was a math exam. I forgot what math. I think it was calculus. I don't care. It sucked. Either way, I was taking it and I was just like, I was really stressed out with it. So what I did was I turned on my game, Apex. I started playing Apex. Every time I died, I looked at a problem and then I went back to Apex. I did it like that and it relaxed me and I got a 92 on that. And it was the best score I got on the exam. So that's one experience.
I think it's because calculus is just the best math. It's really...
Calculus.
It's amazing.
Let me keep it PG-13. we won't get into that. I passed twice because I had to do it twice, which is irritating. Had to do it in high school. Credits don't transfer, so I had to do it again in college. That sucked. Either way, that one of the advantages, like I said, is you're in your own environment. Some people work well when they listen to like music in the background. Some people need to grind it all out. Some people need to take breaks, and so that kind of is an advantage of remote, specifically asynchronized remote, because I feel like synchronized remote, sometimes having those deadlines, you're still comfortable, you're still in your environment, but sometimes I know they make you like keep your camera on, keep your audio on the whole time, and like what if I live in a noisy house, or what if someone else on the Zoom is in a noisy house and I need complete quiet?
You could do noise suppression
on the Zoom.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I didn't think about that. Either way, I feel like that's one of the disadvantages. Also, I know some people don't like having a camera put at them the whole time they're working.
Yeah, true.
Be uncomfortable, especially when I'm typing an essay. Sometimes I forget there's the Zoom camera right there. And I don't know. That's at least one of the disadvantages that I felt uncomfortable with remote.
For one of my remote, where it's like a Zoom class, it's from like 3 to 4:20, and I always cook lunch during that class.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So
That's another thing.
it's kind of nice.
But she can't multitask,
And it's
right?
And it's a philosophy class, so I just listen. It's like a podcast.
But she can't do that. That's a
No,
right?
no. That's not what I was saying about multitask, doing multiple tasks. She's cooking
and listening at the same time.
No,
That's two tasks.
Okay.
I'm just saying. Just saying.
You're not wrong about that, I would say. But I think if she were to sit down and listen more closely to the lecture, she might get more out of it than she was just cooking.
True.
You think
And
so?
she was taking notes on it or something.
I disagree with that. But multitask. I mean, I know what study you're talking about.
Yeah.
I saw the same study. They had the guy driving and texting at the same time while they threw balls at the car. It's a false study.
Oh.
It's not. It's
Science denied.
Like Mythbusters? That's exactly what it was. It was Mythbusters, wasn't it?
No, I was thinking of like an actual thing.
That's the study they did.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Mythbusters study?
I think so. Like they had like experimenters come in. They had a guy driving the car, texting at the same time, and they threw like these. Well, they weren't like damaging balls, but they threw these big balls at the car, and he had to like dodge it and text at the same time. And you're right. Technically, your brain switches. It doesn't do it at the same time.
Right.
It switches. But
that's what I was saying. Like while she's cooking, her brain kind of turns off and listens to the lecture while she's just like, I don't know, stirring those noodles or something. Like,
I feel that. Yeah, it's kind of like so that's some people, at least with me, I feel like I learn better that way if I'm doing something, kind of doing something with my hands. I'm like, you know how like people fidget or something.
And we talked about that in the VR class, didn't we? Didn't
so.
we say that like, oh, because you make associations or something?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I can't. Oh my god, I know exactly what you're talking about.
We were in a certain environment in VR,
Yes.
and we were saying when we were back in that environment, we can recall the information that we learned.
oh, that's interesting.
It's the same way like.
But that was just us claiming that as students in a VR class.
Oh, okay.
Is that like
SPARTIE-Lab, next study, associative environment.
Well, I mean, yeah, like think about how sometimes if you're cooking, right? Let's say you cooked a specific meal and you learned something important. When you smell that meal again, you might remember something specific.
And I mean, smell is like most closely related to memory, actually, as a
There you go.
which is kind of crazy.
Oh,
That's insane.
Maybe
multitasking is.
No, I disagree. I disagree. That is so wrong. Like, just cope. It's such a cope to be like, oh, I need to watch Netflix.
Hey, it's not good. I am telling you.
So many people. Right now.
I know. I don't care.
Such amazing grades from watching Netflix or playing my game and studying at the same time. I'm telling you, my grades
I
go.
just don't. You're not studying at the same time. Maybe you're taking breaks. That's okay.
You know what? How about this? I say maybe I'm not studying as hard, but I'm recalling the information better.
Well, which is good, honestly. I think this might be a hot take too. People can overstudy for something.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
Like,
yeah.
like if you're just grinding it with no breaks, like you don't you only remember like the beginning and end, and like the middle just becomes like a mush in your brain. So.
Well, all this information came from Robbie Rattan's past and future students. Guys, if you ever had the opportunity to take the class, I highly recommend you do. You will learn a lot and you will become more immersed in your classes. You'll figure out which ways you like to study, whether that's multitasking or not, in person, hybrid, remote, and maybe even in VR. And I believe that that is where the future is going. Think about the new Vision Pro that's coming out. I mean, if you want to learn about this stuff, I'm telling you, Robbie Rattan's class is the best one to take. I think it's the only one to take. Ugh. I'll set this down.
Bye.
But what I